think we're going to get started here. I'd like to welcome everyone to the Reynolds Company Tech Talks online seminar series. Today we will be talking about the Rockwell Automation cloud-based infrastructure, or more widely known as RAcbi. And I'd like to welcome everybody to the presentation today. So today, my name is David Newt. I will be the presenter. And I've got three other colleagues with me. I've got Wayne Welk, who's a panelist from, is an automation specialist from New Orleans. Myself, David Newt, I'm an automation specialist from Houston. And we have Mike Masterson, who is from Houston. And also Jesse Harvey, who's from the great North Dallas-Fort Worth. So I'd like to welcome everyone. And before we get started on the RAcbi talk, I'd like to make everyone aware of a few events we have upcoming this month. Next week, we've got a Tech Talk that will cover the Logix AI platform, which is part of FactoryTalk Analytics. Actually, this month we have a theme of analytics for all three of our talks this month. So analytics is a big part of Rockwell's go-to-market strategy and a big part of its growth strategy. And so these are all really interesting topics, very current, especially with the times. Specifically with Logix AI, this brings analytics directly to the controller chassis. So that's literally inside the chassis. You can build analytics, for example, maybe some anomaly detection or soft sensors technology that will run real time in the controller. So that's next Tuesday. And then on the 21st, we're going to have a user group, which is a line of presentations that we've been doing for years, where we've moved these online now. But we're going to cover the scalable compute and the edge gateway on the 21st. And the Edge Gateway is a new software product that enables existing Rockwell control systems to easily communicate up to analytics tools. And so that's an exciting thing that Rockwell's launching here this month. So we're going to talk about it on the 21st. And then finally, on the 25th, we're going to be introducing the FactoryTalk Innovation Suite ThingWorx platform, and ThingWorx is a platform that's been in analytics for quite a while, and Rockwell has in the last 12 to 18, 24 months initiated a not only a technology link, but also some financial links to a company called PTC, and PTC has developed the ThingWorx platform. So a lot of analytics this month, but very current topics, and hopefully everyone will be able to tune in. And before we jump into RAcbi, one more thing. Just so everyone knows, we are recording this session. Sorry, I should have mentioned that a few minutes ago. Thank you to my panelists for pointing that out to me. But before we jump into RAcbi, we'd like to talk just for a minute about some of the online resources that are available directly from the Reynolds Company. And so back in April, we started our Tech Talk series. And now it's August, we've got over 24 archive sessions that are available to you on demand. We created a legacy migration series, covers how to migrate controllers and drives and other things. It's really interesting, about 6 or 7 different sessions around legacy hardware. We also created an industrial networking series that talks a lot about network architecture and switch technology and Stratix technologies and things like that. So really good information. And then also, a lot of you probably know, we've been doing user groups for quite a while. And if you look on our website, we've got over 4 years of archived content from Houston and New Orleans user group presentations. So quite a bit of content regarding user groups. And then finally, more recently, we've started a podcast, and so Wayne Welk has been a big part of that, putting that together out of New Orleans. But we're growing that, those archive sessions. And for those of you that like podcasts, you can find the Reynolds Company podcasts on any wherever you get your podcasts. Spotify, Amazon Music, Apple Music, etc. Just search for TRC Talks and it'll come right up. So, but with respect to the Tech Talks and the user group content, all of that can be found on our Reynolds website, and that's www.reynoldsonline.com. Fast becoming a very valuable resource to our customers and our employees. So, I'm sorry, one other thing. This is somewhat new news. I think we heard about this just a few days ago. Rockwell has decided to make this year's Automation Fair a virtual event. And so I think it's the same time, November 16th through 20th. But this year, as we're all going through all this, we're doing a lot of things virtual. So Automation Fairs will be one of those activities. So stay tuned for more information. But Automation Fair will be a virtual event this year. Now, having said that, you may be thinking, well, those of you that have been to Automation Fair in the past, and you've maybe attended some of the technical presentations or even done some labs, and you're thinking, well, where you'd sit down at a desk and you had some hardware in front of you, or you had a computer with a couple of monitors and you work through some things, and you think, well, how are they going to do that in a virtual environment? Well, that's really the point of our talk today, is the Rockwell Automation Cloud-Based Infrastructure, or RAcbi. RAcbi is the technical ability that's going to make Automation Fair a really strong event. The ability to put a lot of this content in a virtual environment, and so it's more accessible to more people. So let's jump right in. So what is RAcbi? So you think about RAcbi, when you think about in the past, maybe you've attended or you've done product demos, software demos, maybe some trainings or maybe workshops where you've gone to a location, sat down in front of a workstation. The workstation has pre-installed software. The software is licensed. You may or may not have some hardware in front of you. You also have a lab that's been printed out that you work through whatever it is that you came there for. Imagine that same content and that same value, but everything that was in front of you is now in a cloud, and now accessible directly from an internet browser. That's what RAcbi is. And so RAcbi has been around, I believe, 18 to 24 months now. And so we've added a lot of content, but it's fast becoming a very powerful tool that we use within Reynolds, but and our customer base is beginning to use it quite a bit as well. So really makes things easy to do, makes labs and demos and trainings and stuff a lot more accessible to a lot more people. So it's a very, very valuable tool. So how does it work? So RAcbi is a cloud-based infrastructure. So Rockwell has teamed up with Microsoft and uses the Microsoft Azure cloud. Most of you have probably heard of Azure. Azure is the #2 cloud computing platform in the world. So it's very large, it's very scalable. And so what Rockwell has done is they've converted a lot of their demos and labs and things that you may have seen at past automation fairs, or maybe if you've been to RS Tech Ed in the past and participated in that program. A lot of that content has now been converted from a physical demo to virtual. And so how do they do that? Well, they run VMware and then convert all these Microsoft, or I'm sorry, the Rockwell software tools into a Microsoft Hyper-V format. And so once you're in that Hyper-V format, then you can create all these, what we call these master image libraries. And then those are stored on the cloud for access later. And so all of this, what I'm talking about here is behind the scenes. But this is a little bit of how, how cloud computing works and how it becomes so scalable. So anyway, so Rockwell's created these master libraries. And so now, so from the user perspective, it becomes much easier. There's nothing directly to maintain. There's no software to load, etc. Essentially, the user just creates their own instance or instances, and then you use a browser, an internet browser, to connect to the cloud with a login, with some credentials, and you get direct access to whatever it is that you're looking for. So it's a very simple, but also very powerful tool. So over the last couple of years, Rockwell has added quite a bit of content to the cloud. And so this is not a comprehensive list, but this is an idea, gives you an idea of some of the things that are available. Some of the things that I really like to use are a lot of the software tools like Asset Center. There's a couple of really good labs on Asset Center. Plant PAX demos, those of you that know Plant PAX, a full Plant PAX system can be up to 7-8 different server images. And so it's much easier to take a look at Plant PAX in a virtual environment. So there are Plant PAX labs available, probably 4 or 5. Also, a lot of analytics, and those are some of the new labs that are available now. Some of the analytics, IoT solutions, but also if you've taken a look, if you can see this, you might see Powerflex up there. You may see Motion. So those are some of the very new things that we'll talk about today shortly. Okay, so you've seen a little bit about how it works and some of the content. So what are the use cases? So why do people really want to use this? Product demos is probably the number one. So it's really easy to spin up a virtual demo without having to build out an infrastructure. But another important use case is what I call the customer test drive. Product demos would be generally executed or run from with a resource, or rather a Rockwell resource or a Reynolds specialist resource, and those are valuable. But there may be times when a customer may want to have some direct access to some content. Maybe you want to take a test drive or look at some software, maybe a try before you buy, if you will. This is a great platform for that. Kind of bridging that gap between maybe seeing a demo and deciding to implement a pilot. So it's a much easier way to kind of look at software from a customer's perspective, from a user perspective. Thirdly, system integrators find this tool valuable. It's a great refresher. So maybe a customer may have an integrator may have a Vantage Point project or an Asset Center project, and they haven't looked at it in a little while. We've got labs that are a great refresher for them to go over some of the content. Also, what we've heard is it's good for onboarding. Maybe a system integrator has a new engineer and they need some exposure to Studio 5000 or FactoryTalk View SE or some other tools. It's a great way to kind of introduce system integrators, or maybe a system integrator that's used a competing platform, software platform. It's a great way to kind of test drive and get some exposure to Rockwell software. And then we use it at the Reynolds company quite a bit for distributor specialist training. It's a great way for us to get up to speed quickly on technology, and then be able to understand how our user base applies that technology in manufacturing environments. So those are the four main use cases. What it is not a replacement for comprehensive product training. So So Rockwell still offers, the full in-person training, as well as Rockwell's been expanding their online training program as well. That's comprehensive product training. RAcbi is not used for that. It's really used for the four things I talked about. Okay, so the next question is, well, how do I use RAcbi? I'm interested, so how do I start? Well, as a user, really the step zero would be to contact your Reynolds specialist or Reynolds salesperson, and then we, as Reynolds personnel, can schedule your RAcbi instance to be used. So, and we can schedule these for 1 day. We can schedule them for a week. We have there's a lot of leeway that we have in getting these started, and so we can schedule a single sign on, or we can do multiple, up to 10, 15 even instances at the same time. So step zero would be to contact your Reynolds specialist. Step one, what we do internally is we go to what we call the self-service portal. We log in, and then we actually go in and schedule the instance for the dates and times that the users have requested. So one new thing, those of you that have used RAcbi in the past, one thing that Rockwell's added very recently is now the user or the customer can start, stop, and restart the virtual images independently without the need for a distributed resource. And so in the past, we had to kind of communicate with the user to make sure if the user was not using the instance after a certain amount of time, the instance would stop and we'd have to go restart it. Well, now the user has that ability, so it makes it a little bit better to use. So step two would be what the user sees. So once a Reynolds resource has scheduled your instance, we as Reynolds would get a notification that cloud-based infrastructure is now available. And so when that happens, an automatic email gets triggered, and it's sent to us. It can also be sent to the user as well, that your instance is ready. And so along with that email, there's some login credentials that you get that kind of creates that tunnel from your browser into the Azure cloud, and then you're off and running. So it's a very clean interface. This is pretty much what you see, and then you're off and running. Okay, so what's new? So we're really excited about this, and this has been launched earlier this year, is what we call the RAcbi hardware-based demo. So with the existing cloud infrastructure, in the past we had full access to all the virtual images, whether they're servers or workstations. Rockwell has taken that extra step of connecting hardware to a cloud-based server. And so as you can see from the diagram, Rockwell has set up a whole demo center, basically a virtual demo center in Milwaukee in their headquarters. And they've built a firewall. And so Rockwell manages all that internally. We don't, as users, we don't have to worry about it. But Rockwell has an extensive amount of amount of hardware that will automatically, through the firewall, connect to your virtual images. So whether that's Studio 5000 Lab or even hardware like Powerflex drives or motion applications and things like that, we've been able to, and not only creating that network connection for communications, but Rockwell in some labs also has audio-visual steps as well as part of the lab. So you can actually see the lights blinking. You can look at a drive and maybe look at some rotating equipment moving or something when you turn the drive on. So really good feedback for training on hardware. And so currently, Rockwell has 26 hardware-based demos available, and we'll go over those a little bit. One thing to to remember or to understand, if you are interested in doing a hardware-based demo, as of today, we have to include a Rockwell resource to schedule that. So as you can realize, these demos are in high demand, and because they have particular hardware associated with them, we do have to schedule that hardware to be used. It's not just the cloud, so it's real hardware. So we have to really schedule that hardware. And so this is another couple of pictures of this hardware-based demo. Pretty exciting to see. You've got, what, 25 controllers there, 12 or so drives, lots of stuff. Now it is flexible, and so we need a little bit of lead time to schedule these, but they are on demand. So first, it's kind of somewhat of a first come first serve type of situation. But it's a very efficient way to actually have some real hardware training exposure. So these are just a list. I guess it's a comprehensive list as of this week, what you can expect to see as a hardware-based demo. So I just wanted to kind of point a few of these out that we really haven't had access to before. So the first one there, basic Stratix switch and Ethernet IP features. So we have not had that Stratix exposure demos available in the cloud before. So this walks you through actually configuring with Express Setup a Stratix switch, and that's something that's very relevant to a lot of our integrators and end users as we implement more complex managed switch networks. Other things here, another one I thought was interesting was the Factory Talk Links OPC lab. And so this lab, yeah, it's got a lot of software, but we're actually connecting to hardware. And we're actually using the Factory Talk Links Gateway version 6, which is the newer technology. So that's kind of interesting to be able to kind of take some Rockwell hardware and then communicate to other third-party softwares. So Plant PAX is also on here. I think version 5. I think that's at the bottom there. So version 5 is actually scheduled to be released in September, but we already have a hardware demo ready to go on RAcbi. If anybody would like to see Plant PAX 5.0. Another thing to point out, if you look at the description of some of these labs, you notice ROKLive 2020. So any of you that had an opportunity to participate in that ROKLive event, that was also a virtual event that Rockwell hosted back in June. Very successful, I think had the largest event of that kind in Rockwell's history. But a lot of those labs that were created for that ROKLive event are now available on the RAcbi on demand. So if you didn't have a chance to go to ROKLive, now you do still have that opportunity to go take advantage of some of the labs that were available in that event. So some more things. So here's, I think, is interesting now that we've added some Powerflex hardware-based demos to our suite here, and you can see the Powerflex also includes Logix Designer and View Designer. So we're doing some integration between the drive and the controller on some of these demos. So it's pretty interesting. We're also using, we have a RA Foundation, RA Foundations labs. Those of you that may or may not be familiar, RA Foundations is a new virtual workshop environment that Rockwell's created to replace some of the older Rockwell on tour events that we had, and those on tour events were very successful, but they created a lot of extra work because we had to actually have the hardware at each on location, power it up, get everything running, and then run through the labs. Well, now we can do the foundations in a virtual environment, and so we're really excited about that. And then finally, some other things here. Those of you that need a refresher on Studio 5000, this Logix Advanced Lab is great for that. It goes over some of the newer features that you may or may not be using, that are only available in some of the newer versions, like Logix-based tag alarms, parameter-based tags, some of those things that weren't available, 5-6 years ago. So a lot of tools, a lot of great content. We really hope that you take advantage of the RAcbi tool, and please contact your local Reynolds company personnel, whether that's an account manager or a specialist, and we'd be more than happy to schedule some RAcbi instances for you. So with that, I don't know if there's any questions, but I don't see any. So I'd like to thank everyone for their time, and let us know if you have any if you would be interested in signing up for some RAcbi labs. Thank you very much.